Welcome to another Gearwig battle report. James is back with his Skorne, and he's taking on Mike and his Trollbloods in a 50-point game at Crossroad Games in Standish, Maine. Mike is bringing a kooky Trollbloods take on the Sorscha's 18 list. He's got Grim Angus here as his warlock, got a war wagon in the back, Alton Ashley, Victor Pendrake, got a Mauler there, a Skinner, got the lesser warlock Dahlia and her pet snake, got a full unit of Nis hunters, Gudrun the Wanderer, Maximus, a Totem Hunter, and an Impaler. James just finished painting this gorgeous Xerxis model. My crappy camera doesn't really do it justice, but it is fantastic. He's got Tiberion here in his battle group, and a bronze back on the other side. Took a unit of Venator Slingers, Tyrant Zadesh on the lower left, some Beast Handlers. Zadesh has a Reptile Hound and a Savage in his battle group. A lone Satrati who lost his buddies. There they are, a full unit. And finally, he's got the Tyrant and Standard Bearer in the back. And their scenario is close quarters. Mike deploys his Nis Hunters along the bottom. His Warlock, Battle Group, and Battle Engine are all deployed in the middle. And on the top, he has a whole gaggle of solos. James deploys the bulk of his army in the center with the Venators up front, and Zadesh and his battle group are up at the top here. Mike starts his turn by running Gudrun up, and then runs his Skinner up into the woods. Followed by Alton Ashley. Dahlia's pet snake runs. Dahlia advances and casts Haunting Melody on herself. Maximus runs forward as well, followed by the Totem Hunter. Look at this motley crew of solos. Grim Angus, working on the biggest bounty of his life, has assembled this ragtag team of Ogrins, Berserker Pigs, and Flautists to pull off one last job. For more Warmachine based fan fiction, you should check out Gearwig's sister site, Stories from the Steam World. Also, a Battle Engine ran up. And Mike's Impaler also runs. The Mauler follows suit. And the Nis Hunters run as well. Nis Hunters like to hang out near forests. They can ignore them for line of sight purposes. Victor Pendrake runs behind the Nis. And lastly, Grim Angus dumps a couple Fury and runs as well. James starts on Zadesh's side of the board and forces his Cyclops to run. The Reptile Hound runs. Zadesh advances and casts Tag Team on himself, effectively giving his battle group gang. The Slingers run up. The Slingers match up poorly against most of Mike's troops here. They'll roll extra damage against the Battle Engine and may be able to knock a few points off it. But mostly they'll just be jamming, trying to engage ranged troops, stuff like that. The Tyrant and Standard unit just advance. The Satrati opt to take a run order, not the shield wall order. The two are mutually exclusive. Xerxis activates, he casts mobility to speed up his entire battle group, including himself, and advances forward. He could advance 9 inches, but cuts it a little short. He doesn't want to be too close to Mike's army yet. Tiberian activates, he casts Bump on himself, and then declares a charge against a faraway enemy. The charge fails, of course, but with mobility and the extra charge distance, he can move up pretty far. The Bronzeback just runs. The Kriya advances and casts her Animus Paralytic Aura on Xerxis, which gives him +2 defense and armor against shooting attacks. It also gives those benefits to any models within 2 inches of Xerxis, which can cover a lot of area with a huge base model, so it's a great Animus to have with this caster. The Beast Handlers advance up in the hopes of clearing off some of the fury that was generated here. They're able to tag the Bronzeback and the Kriya, but Tiberion is just out of range. He'll have 1 extra fury next control phase, so he'll have to make a frenzy check. But his threshold's 10, which is already very high. And he's bonded to Xerxis, which gives him another +2 threshold, so he'll be fine. Mike starts his turn by charging Gudrun the Wanderer into Zadesh's Reptile Hound. He hits. He's rolling dice +2 for damage on the charge, but rolls terribly. The Totem Hunter advances up, and then he jumps another 5 inches, lands right in the middle of Zadesh's little party here. He'll whack the Reptile Hound to his left with his buckler. The Reptile Hound is his prey. He hits, rolling straight dice with his buckler. Again, rolls terrible, so the Reptile Hound is not even crippled. He's close enough to poke Zadesh with his spear. He hits. He does enough damage to force Zadesh to transfer it over to the Cyclops. Maximus is too far away to threaten anyone, so he just runs. Alton Ashley takes the aiming bonus and fires a shot at the Cyclops. And still manages to miss somehow. Then Mike gets very aggressive and moves Grim Angus to the front of his army. He uses his feat, which reduces enemies in his control area's speed and defense by 3. So he clips the vast majority of James's army here. He then fires his snare gun at the middle Satrati here. The attack does no damage, but it knocks its target down. The attack hits. And the model is knocked down. I wonder why Mike chose to knock that one model down, that one in the middle. I mean, I do know why. I watched this live, so I know what happens, but it's like a tease. It's a showbiz thing. Dahlia's pet snake advances. Makes a spray attack, hitting 2 of the slingers. And it destroys 1 of them. The battle engine charges a slinger. He decides not to make impact attacks here, because he would have to also make an attack against Grim Angus, and that's not good. Also, if his impact attack killed the slinger, his charge would fail. He's still allowed to make a charge attack with the mount weapon, as per the Troll Wagon special rules, and that charge attack destroys the slinger. It has weapon platform, so it can now make range attacks as well. It uses its big gun to target that knockdown model. Now that he's knocked down, he only needs a 3 to hit. And he rolls a 3! With Grim's feet up, he would have only needed a 4 to hit without that knockdown. Really didn't do much, but man, he hit the 1 number that he needed to hit, so it's a very clever ploy. It pancakes them all, they are all knocked down. The one in the middle is destroyed, and the other ones take minimal blast damage, but the entire unit is on the floor. He follows that up with the spray attack that hits easily because they're all knocked down. It does a little bit of damage but doesn't destroy anyone. His Mauler is too far away to charge anyone, but he can help the Skinner live the dream. The Skinner solo is only really good at charging war beasts, but man, when he does and it all works out, he's really fun. So to help out, the Mauler's going to cast his Animus, which gives him +3 strength. Dahlia activates and just advances up. And here goes the Skinner, living the dream, charging Tiberian. He's only POW 8, but the Animus brings him up to 11. He's a Weapon Master. He has a special Dismember ability that adds an extra die, and he's charging, so we're rolling 5 dice, -11. The attack hits. And there are the 5 dice. And he ends up doing 7 points of damage, so that's kind of dreamy. Then Tiberian's bump Animus goes off and pushes the Skinner back 3 inches. And this Hunters activate and advance. The ones engaged with the Slingers take melee attacks. Destroy one. Then another Slinger. The remaining range attacks are able to destroy the Satrati leader. The Impaler activates, advances up, fires a shot at a nearby Satrati. He boosts the damage, which ends up being a problem later when he needs to manage Fury. But he's able to destroy that model. Victor Pendrake goes up, fires a shot with his lucky bow, but isn't able to destroy anyone. James starts his turn managing Fury. Because the Beast Handler near Tiberian was just out of range last turn, Tiberian has 1 extra Fury. He's out of command range of the Bronzeback, so he'll have to make a frenzy check. His threshold's really high, and even higher because of his bond with Xerxis, so he passes easily. Then the Tyrant and Commander activate, and use their Reveille ability on the Satrati, so that entire unit gets up. They both then advance behind the Satrati. They're affected by Grimm's feat, so they're at -3 speed right now. The Satrati activate. They can't charge thanks to the feat, so they can only run here in the hopes to jam up some Nis Hunters. They can actually only run 4 inches, so James has to pull them back a little bit. But they still engage a couple Nis. Then Zadesh activates. He advances such that he can engage both Gudrun and the Totem Hunter. He attacks Gudrun. Hits. He's rolling dice -1 thanks to his tag team ability that works very much like Gang, and leaves Gudrun with 1 box. He buys an attack that hits. And does enough damage to knock him down. Gudrun, when he runs out of boxes, is knocked down and gains all his boxes back. The Reptile Hound activates and advances toward Gudrun. He automatically hits him because he's knocked down, boosts a damage roll that destroys him. The Cyclops activates and advances to engage the Totem Hunter. Cyclops is teetering on the edge. He makes an attack roll, getting the backstrike bonus and the tag team bonus. Attack roll hits. And rolling straight dice damage does 2 damage. The Cyclops buys a second attack that hits. And does just enough damage to kill the Totem Hunter. The last Slinger activates and runs to engage Alt and Ashley. Xerxis activates. He casts Mobility on himself. He's He's affected by Grimm's feat, so he cannot charge. He can advance far enough to get into melee combat with the battle engine, but he won't be getting an automatic boosted damage roll. His first attack hits. He's rolling dice -4 for 1 damage. Hits again for no damage. His mount attack hits. Rolling dice -5 here and does 3 damage to the battle engine. He buys an additional attack that hits. He'll be rolling dice -4. He's going to boost the damage and does 8 more. So battle engine's still very healthy. Xerxis is sitting on 1 fury for a transfer and is in the middle of the battlefield. Since he's bonded with Tiberion, he can cast his bump for free, and he does. Tiberion activates. He also cannot charge. He advances as far as he can. With mobility, he ain't get that far. He's going to check his reach range, and he's just close enough to Maximus to start taking some swings. His first attack hits. Does 5 damage. Second attack hits. Disables Maximus, who then misses his tough roll. The bronze back activates. He also cannot charge thanks to the feat. With mobility, his total speed becomes 3 and he can run for 6. The beast handlers advance. And remove any excess fury. The Kree activates last. She was not caught by the feat, so she can advance quite far with mobility. After she does so, she casts her Animus on herself. She and any model within 2 inches will get the bonus, so Xerxis gets it too. This is a rare instance where a model can be affected by 2 animi. Xerxis casts Bump on himself to protect against melee attacks. And he's affected by the paralytic ore from the Basilisk that gives him +2 defense and armor against ranged attacks. But he's right out in the open with only 1 fury to transfer damage. Mike starts his turn by leeching 2 fury from the Mauler, but doesn't have enough room to leech the 1 on the Impaler, who now needs to make a threshold check. He failed. He's going to Frenzy and target poor Victor Pendrake here. Victor's good at dodging Warbeast attacks though, and the attack misses. Mike activates Grimm first and casts Marked for Death on Xerxis. This will lower his defense by 2. He boosts the attack roll and it hits. Mike's entire turn will be focused on killing Xerxis. And this spell counters the Kriya's Animus nicely. Grimm takes the aiming bonus and fires his ranged attack at Xerxis. The attack hits and rolls dice -8. He boosts the damage and does 2 damage. The battle engine activates next. It also takes the aiming bonus and fires its big cannon into Xerxis. The attack hits. It'll roll dice -5 for damage and does 4 damage. He fires the spray attack into Xerxis as well, but that attack roll misses. The battle engine then makes its mount attack. Xerxis won't benefit from the Kriya's Animus here, so his defense is only 11. The attack hits. If this attack does damage, Bump will go off. Of course the battle engine won't be bumped at all, but Bump isn't optional. It will just expire. The mount will roll dice -5 for damage. And do 4 damage. He does have to trust me that the die that careened off the table was a 5. Halton Ashley knifes the last slinger. The Skinner activates and charges Xerxis. He's immune to free strikes when they come from Warbeasts, so he can scurry away from Tiberion with no consequences. His attack roll hits, and he'll be rolling dice minus 11 damage. And Mike rolls an 11 exactly, so no damage. Mike tries to get his Mauler in on the action, but that wall in front of him is blocking his charge. Grim has a spell named Cross Country that would have given him Pathfinder, but Grim's already activated, and he wasn't in range. He would have had to back up and use some of his Fury on that instead. Mike decides to get back to the Mauler later. Dahlia's Snake activates next and charges Xerxis. Thanks to the Marked for Death, the Snake will only need a 5 to hit. And hits. It'll be rolling dice minus 3 for damage. It only manages to do 3 damage with its charge attack. The Snake buys a second attack. This attack misses. It buys a third attack that hits, rolling dice minus 3. Does 5 damage. This leaves Xerxis with only 1 box. The Snake buys its last attack, which hits. And does 5 damage. Xerxis must spend his last Fury to transfer this damage to the Kriya, leaving Xerxis with 1 box and no Fury. Mike finds something for the Mauler to do. He's going to walk up and throw this worm into Xerxis. He considers using the Mauler's Animus for extra throw damage, but instead decides to boost every attack roll involved with this throw. He boosts the throw to pick up the worm and start the throw, but rolls 3 1s. Oh, that's amazing. So the throw doesn't even get started, and the Mauler's activation is effectively over. Victor Pendrake, who survived that frenzied impaler. Hey, wouldn't it be nice to have that impaler activate now? But no. Anyway, Victor takes a lucky shot. The attack roll hits. He'd need boxcars to kill Xerxis, and does not roll boxcars. But that's okay, because the Nis have got this. They advance into a position to set up a big combined ranged attack. Typically you can't make combined ranged attacks against a model in melee, but Xerxis is a battle engine, so it's legal. Two of the Nis are engaged when it's all done, but the other 8 have a shot. So it'll get +8 to its attack roll, and it will be effective power 18. The combined attack roll hits, and will roll dice minus 3 damage. A good time for an action pause. I remember watching this live and thinking, Mike only needs a 4 to win. This will be sort of a disappointing debut for Xerxis. He just moved up into the middle and got shot to death. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if Mike rolled a 3 here? It's one of those things you think, but you don't say out loud because it sounds so dumb.
I want to play against that list.
Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Man, you're just going to have to take my word for it that I didn't doctor these rolls, that I didn't edit this into some crazy rigged spectacle for your entertainment. That really happened, and it sucked. And by the way, that was Mike cackling at his own failure. It's rude to cackle at your opponent when stuff like that happens. Dahlia activates last and frantically throws her flute at Xerxis in a desperate attempt to do 1 point of damage. Come on! James starts by activating Xerxis and using his feat. His army adds an additional die and then drops a die from all attack and damage rolls. I always call this the Signs Importance effect, but that's clunky. I think we could get something catchier going. How about Dice Drop? Like, Assyria's feat gives her whole army True Sight and Dice Drop. Yeah, we should do that. I think that works. Xerxis makes an attack roll against the battle engine. He already forgets to use his feat, but it hits anyway. For damage, he'll be rolling dice minus 5. After dropping the lowest die, he does 6 damage. His second attack hits, and does just enough damage to destroy the battle engine. He finishes his activation by casting Ignite on the Bronzeback, giving it +2 to its melee attack damage rolls. The Satrati activate and try to maneuver out of the Bronzeback's way. They need to clean out those 2 Nis Hunters that are standing between the Bronzeback and Grim. Even with the feet up though, they're only able to kill 1. Tyrant and Commander go next. The Tyrant gives himself the press forward ability, adding some speed, and advances up to try to get that Nis Hunter into reach range. He and the Bronzeback get all tangled up. That's how Bronzebacks roll. Weird spiky bits all over the place. Anyhow, he does get the Nis Hunter in reach. And destroys him. The Beast Handlers go next and spread out. He's hoping to enrage both the Bronzeback and Tiberion. That's going to require careful placement so that none of them are out of formation. He puts the leader in the middle there, and is able to get the rest into a position where they stay in formation and are close enough to their targets to enrage them. Both Tiberion and the Bronzeback can charge for free and get +2 strength. The Reptile Hound activates next. He runs down near the Skinner. You can't attack him, but he is engaging him. Now Zadesh will have the gang bonus when he charges the Skinner. And the Skinner is destroyed. Cyclops activates and advances within range of the snake. He takes a couple swings at it, damages it, but doesn't destroy it. Tiberion activates and charges the Mauler. Tiberion's charge attack hits. He'll be rolling dice +2 for damage. And does 13. His next attack hits. He'll be rolling dice -1 damage now. It only does 2. His last attack hits. His tusks, which also roll terrible damage. Another battle report where Tiberion rolls lousy dice. Not as important as the last game, though. He buys an attack that completely misses. Bad Tiberion dice. He buys an attack that hits. Rolling dice +2. Man, so lousy. Buys another attack that misses somehow. Man. Get new dice. The last attack hits. And does enough to destroy the Mauler finally. Grim Reeves' Fury back up to 5, but now only has 1 beast to transfer to, his Impaler. The Bronzeback activates and charges Grim. With Ignite and Enrage, he'll be rolling dice +5 on his charge attack. That's a lot. He'll need a 9 to hit, so he boosts the attack roll. After dropping the lowest, he's still able to hit. James burned all his bad dice rolls on that Tiberian activation, so blam! 23 damage. Mike has to transfer it. The transfer kills the Impaler, and another point of damage bounces back to Grim. Bronzeback then attacks with his War Gauntlet. After dropping the lowest, the attack misses. For his next War Gauntlet swing, James boosts the attack roll. It hits. It'll be rolling dice plus 6 damage. It hits him for 12. James buys an attack and boosts the attack roll. It hits. The damage again will be plus 6, which no matter what the roll, will result in Grim Angus needing to make a tough roll. But he does. Grim is down to 1 box and knocked down. James buys an attack that automatically hits and forces another tough roll. This time Grim fails and dies, giving James the victory. This is the first time I had seen Xerxis on the table, and the first time James had played him. He gave us a good idea of his durability. James sort of treated him like he was invincible, but by all rights Mike should have had him on that one turn. Paralytic Aura brought his armor up to 21 against range, but Mike had some pretty high damage ranged attacks. Paralytic Aura brought his defense up to 15 as well, but Mike countered that with Marked for Death. It took some really lousy dice and an enraged Impaler to fail that assassination run. That said, James didn't have a whole lot of options after Mike blew his feet. You'll remember on that turn his Titans were almost useless. They could run 6 and not attack, or shuffle around for 3. Really the only model that could do anything was Xerxis. If he hadn't been so aggressive and had pulled back, he would have given Mike another round of shooting, and maybe a control point or two. Maybe time was on James's side. Maybe Zadesh would, after cleaning out those solos, would have been able to come down and turn the tide. Then again, maybe Zadesh would have been the one destroyed after Mike's feet turn, making his battle group useless. Mike did well to run on turn 1 to get his caster up the field, so on turn 2, he could use his feet. I don't think James was expecting him to use it that quickly and to push up that far. It put James in a tough spot. But overall, a good game. With some real fun dice results. I mean, fun for us, not Mike, but fun. Thank you for watching. For more Warmachine videos and updates, check out Gearwig.com. You can email me at boss@gearwig.com or check out our Facebook or Twitter page. And you can help us out by subscribing to this YouTube channel.